Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to talk about some Doctor Who. Now, it's going to be kind of different than a usual video because like a lot of times, I'll do videos talking about stories that are better the second time around. Maybe a story the first time you saw it just didn't quite do it for you, but on rewatch you're like, you know what, that's pretty good. Or it might go from decent to good, or from bad to decent, but somehow on repeat viewings, it kind of grows on you, like Deep Breath and Robots of Sherwood have on me. But this time we're going to do something different, and we're going to look at 3 stories that, for me personally, weren't as good the second time around. A story that I had one opinion of, and somehow on rewatch, my opinion dropped on it a bit, to some degree. So these are 3 stories that, to me, weren't as good the second time around. And the first one on the list is the main one, the one that gave me the idea for the video. This is definitely the number one on the list, and that would be the Androids of Terra, or Tara, whichever one it is. Because I really liked the Androids of Terra the first time I watched it. I enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite season 16 stories. But on rewatch, I didn't care for it as much. I don't dislike it, but I didn't really care for it. It's my second least favorite. Of course, we know Power of Kroll is my least favorite. You guys know that. But this was definitely my second least favorite. I think a lot of it is just because I feel like Romana's character has done a huge disservice. She really is reduced to that damsel in distress role. Getting captured, getting free, getting recaptured, getting almost forced to marry a guy. And I feel like Romana, being a Time Lord, or Time Lady if you prefer, deserves better. I mean, I get that she's naive. She doesn't have the Doctor's experience, and she doesn't have the experience she would get later herself. But I still feel like, being a Time Lord, she shouldn't be relegated to this damsel in distress in need of saving. And I always wonder if this story is part of the reason why Mary decided to leave the role after only 1 season. Although I got to give Mary credit, she does play like 4 different roles in this, because she's playing Romana, she's playing the princess, she's playing the robot pretending to be Romana, and she's playing the robot pretending to be the princess. It's pretty impressive, actually. I like other aspects of the story. Tom is great in it. Tom's pretty much always great. I love that bit about, would you mind not standing on my chest? My hat's on fire. I love that. That's very Tom Baker. And when he's talking to the guy about, we do? And he goes, the guy just offered me the throne. That whole bit when he's acting shocked when the guy's talking to him, he's like, really? We will? I love that. And then when he pokes his head out after, the guy told him he'd let him walk away free, and he's just like, liar! I like how he pops his head back out just to yell liar. The guy who's playing the main villain, I know he played the pilot in the Macroterra. He's good in this. I enjoy him. There's something humorous about him that I like. I mean, he's obviously a villain with some bad intentions, but something about the way he plays the role has a little bit of a humor to it that I like. So there are aspects of the story I do enjoy. I don't hate the story, but it definitely isn't nearly as good as I thought it was the first time I watched it. I really need to give it a rewatch at some point just to see, because I watched it twice, I believe. The first time I liked it, the second time I didn't really care for it. So I'm curious on the third viewing what I'll think of. Maybe I should just watch it alone, because both times I've watched it have been while I've been going through the whole season. I've never just watched it on its own. Maybe I should do that. Number 2 on the list is the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People, which is from Series 6 of Modern Doctor Who. Now this is one I never just loved, but I thought it was fine. But on rewatch, and I've rewatched it more than once, I've watched it several times now, I don't really care for it. I feel like it's one of the stories that pulls Series 6 down instead of bolstering it up, because Series 6 is a very mixed series. There's good episodes, there's bad episodes, but I do feel like this one falls more in the bottom half category. Now, it does some things I like having the Flesh Doctor I really enjoy, and the lesson at the end when you find out they switch shoes, testing Amy. It's a great lesson about thinking you know what you know, and about being biased, how she was very biased to what she thought was the Flesh and not her doctor. When you find out they switch shoes. That's great. I love that. That's what really salvages the story for me. Plus, I like the fact that the one girl who's all innocent and nice, has the ganger that's the murderous one. And I find, one, the actress playing both those parts does a great job. She's good in it. She's good at playing the human girl and the ganger girl. It's just the fact that they're so drastically different, that the girl is all innocent and sweet, and that the ganger is the main antagonist, really. That their personalities are so different. I find that fascinating. Very, very fascinating. And I think the guest cast all do a really good job. I will say that. All of the guest cast are really good in it. So while it has some things I like about it, it's certainly watchable. It's not one I go back to much anymore, just because the story itself doesn't really wrap me up in it. I just find it uninteresting, especially as a two-parter. It just kind of loses me. And number 3 on the list, this is the one that's going to get me in trouble. The one that I don't enjoy as much as I did the first time. It's still a good story. But it just, I think because of the nature of what the story is, I can understand not enjoying it as much. And that is Robots of Death. Now let me be clear, I like Robots of Death. But the reasons I like Robots of Death isn't the story, because as an Agatha Christie whodunit, it's really only the most impactful the first time around, I feel. I find the villain kind of silly. You know, he paints himself up like one of the robots. He's a bit over the top toward the end. Granted, the dude is nuts. I mean, the guy's crazy. The guy is bonkers wacko. So it makes sense why he's doing what he's doing. Because he's raised by robots. So he thinks he's a robot. He wants to be a robot. So he's bonkers. So it makes sense why he's acting the way he's acting. But it's still a little off-putting. The one guy who's paranoid about robots and freaking out and have a mental breakdown kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, to this day, I'm still like, okay, this feels like a plot point that wasn't developed fully here. Because he's supposed to be impersonating he's somebody else, somebody impersonating something. It doesn't really work for me. The reason I like Robots of Death, and the reason why I'll always say it's a good story, is its design. They did a really good job executing the story with its design. It's robot designs, its costume designs, and the ship's interior design really stand up well, because they have this kind of timeless quality to them. They don't look of their time. Like, a lot of classic Doctor Who can look dated, because it'll be like, a story from the 60s, oh, well, this is what the 60s thought the future would look like. Or a story from the 70s, oh, this is what the 70s thought the future would look like. There is, of course, a lot of that, because, everything is a product of its time. And so something made in the 70s is going to be what the 70s thinks the future is going to look like. I mean, even Alien, as good as it is what, it thought the 70s were going to look like, with that it has that big claustrophobia going on. A lot of the ships look smaller because of that. But the ship here looks really good. It has this kind of like Renaissance look. It looks like a relaxing cruise. So even though these people are here having to work, they're not in these harsh Nostromos conditions where they're cramped in and they're uncomfortable. Here it's like they're working, but they have this, it's almost like in leisure, like you're working in leisure. They have these nice outfits that look super comfortable. They don't look like blue-collar workers. They look like they're, like they got everything they want. They're having to do a job, but they've got all their wants. They probably got all the food they want. They got these comfortable clothes. The interior of the thing they're in, the little driller thing, it looks very comfortable. It looks nice, wood paneling and all of that. Seriously, you'd think they were affluent and wealthy from the way everything looks. So I like that because it doesn't look dated. I can't look at that. I mean, I know it's older because of the camera work and the type of cameras used and camera angles, but I can't look at that and go, well, this is obviously made in the 70s because of the way the interior of the ship looks. I can't do that, and I like that. I like the fact that the interior of the ship looks timeless. The robot designs are probably the best robot designs Classic Who ever did, and they even blow out some of modern Who. Because a lot of the classic robot designs, again, because they were done so long ago, don't hold up. I mean, you look at the machine from Colony in Space, and you guys know I love Colony in Space, but that little thing looks weird. And that's kind of similar to the machine they use in, it's another story. There's another story that uses a similar machine. You know, even the Paradise Towers, you know I love Paradise Towers, but the machine in it doesn't look super intimidating. Even the War Machines and the War Machines, and I like the War Machines, I'm kind of like, all right, willing suspension of disbelief, turn on now. But these robot designs hold up well. I think the robots in this look better than the robots in Mysterious Planet, and I also like Mysterious Planet. But they have this kind of timeless quality to it. Like when you saw the Season 14 box set with Louise Jameson and the robot dressed up like the robots from Death, even though that was filmed in like, what, 2019 or 2020 or whenever it was, you know, it still looked like it fit right into 2019 and 2020. It still looked really good because it has this timeless quality. So that is why I love Robots of Death. The actual story itself, doesn't really do much for me. Story-wise, probably the weakest of Season 14 from a story standpoint. Leela's great in it. The Doctor is great in it. I think the guest cast all do pretty well in it. If they're not super great, they're pretty well. It has some great moments in it, for sure. But it's really that design that make it stand up. If it had been done more like a traditional 70s Doctor Who story, it'd probably be one of Tom Baker's weakest stories, in my opinion. So while I still love it because of the design, I still don't enjoy it as much as I did the first time through, simply because the story doesn't appeal to me as much. It really is one of those, I think it hits hardest the first go-round when you're trying to work out who did it. It doesn't quite work on repeat viewing. It's really the design that bolsters it up. It does have a timeless look to it that classic Doctor Who doesn't usually manage to capture. Usually things look like they're built of their time, but this one really does get away from that, which I like. So that has been 3 Doctor Who stories that I thought weren't as good the second time around and on other repeat viewings. I would like to know what you think of these 3 stories and how well they hold up, and I would like to know 3 stories that didn't impress you as much the second time around. So comment down below and let me know, because I always enjoy hearing from you guys. Also, while you're here, go ahead and click that like button and that subscribe button. That helps me out. Trying to reach 800 subscribers now. That is my goal, so I appreciate each and every one of you. I also have a Patreon. If you would like to support me that way, there's a link to that down in the description below. All sorts of different tiers to choose from. Anyone who joins at any tier level gets a free video request. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me, and a link to my Amazon wish list, which I update regularly, is down there as well. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.